Hello, my dear audiences, lovely audiences. Welcome to the show, Jack Chow. Once again on the East-West show with G&E TV. Once again, we're talking about our money, especially in the hot summer when water is running out, when bad news about the financial world getting all kinds of varieties, right? I mean, news of all kinds of varieties. We are a little bit lost at this very moment. Namely, what's happening in Greece, what's happening in China. Together, Greece and China, what's happening, would that affect us, United States, or us? I mean, people, taxpayers, hardworking, with a little bit of money to play around. So that's a bigger question. We'll, of course, go into one by one. And then later we'll talk about, we will be talking about what are we doing, what are we going to do to take care of ourselves starting this summer, right? So with the energy going sky high, with everything around us happening. So today joining me, my good friend, an expert in financial planning and management, I would say, management, financial executive, Mr. Stephen Hunley. Welcome to the show, Mr. Hunley.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. We had been talking about this financial subject for quite some time though. Never once did we get the chance to touch about worldwide, especially at this very moment though. What's happening in Greece is really bothering us, bothering people all over the world. So what is exactly happening in Greece, please?
Well, Greece, as you know, is a country that's steeped in a long-term tradition. They provided Socrates or Aristotle, and all that up till about, and they have always been a country that's been more tourism-oriented in their economics. They decided in the 80s to go for the Olympics. They went for the Olympics, as you remember, Great Olympics. Unfortunately, they had to borrow lots and lots of money. Between then and now, they continue to borrow money. They're also part of what's called the EU, which is the European Union, which is about 21 countries that use the euro, solid one currency, not the drachma, not the mark. And they have accumulated a lot of debt. Now, how they did it, they have obligations, they have pension obligations, a lot of that stuff. And they just kept borrowing money. Well, you can get to the point of borrowing money where you can't borrow any more money. They won't let you. Banks won't let you.
To the point that it goes to the verge of no more.
Right. Enough is enough.
Enough is enough. Okay.
So they borrowed approximately, from what I read, $300 billion. Which is
last night I read 320. 320 with a B.
So now it comes down to, well, the people who are holding those notes said it's time for you to pay us. In June, they owed 3.5 billion euros as a payment, and they didn't make the payment. So the government stepped in. The Germans, the French, to some extent, the British stepped in and said, you know, what are we going to do? We're happy to help you restructure your debt. We're still going to pay the money. When they restructure the debt, what they do is they take it from you still owe the money, but they take it from a bigger interest rate, maybe 6% or whatever it has been, to maybe what it is today, which is probably about 2 or 3. And we want what they call austere. In other words, we want you to tighten your belt. We don't want you to be spending money on all sorts of things for all sorts of people. And unfortunately, the Greeks decided, well, we're going to vote on it as a country. And last 2 weeks ago, they voted on the country and they said, we don't want any austere. So now it puts the Greeks in a position, well, what do we do? Do we pump more money into this country? Maybe not. Do we restructure the debt? No, they probably said that. The latest thinking, at least what I was hearing this morning, was that they have a couple of choices. One is they let Greece default. Default, is probably not a very good thing, but defaulted on $300 billion worth of loans has a lot of ripple effect throughout the world.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing they could do is they could restructure the loans, and they could have an austere program. Greece has said no to that. So it's very touch and go right now. It's really one of those situations where you really don't know. The issue, though, in the financial world is this causes uncertainty. And as you know,
yes, you're talking about
the financial world is not like
instability.
Instability, uncertainty.
Huge instability. Yeah. All right. Okay. Now, I quite agree with you about what's happening right now is really something that brings no solution, no obvious solution, either way. Right? Should the major players such as Germany, such as France, continue loaning monies to them, right?
Yeah.
So while loaning, though, where is the hope of return? They are sky high already.
That's right.
Right? And by looking at their books, there is no way. Obviously, there is zero way of returning. Right. And then you're just burning your money, right? So that's problem number one. Problem number two, if you do allow them to crash, well, it will ripple effect all the community, all the 20, so there's other 19 countries, right? Altogether 20. All the 20 will die together because you will lose everything about the euro. The credibility about euro, the value, the true value of the content, the value of euro. Because all of a sudden you're talking about more than $320 billion, euros, depreciated, and then that take a big chunk of it. That probably will cause the collapse or the crash of the whole euro system.
It may, but the other big concern with Greece that is the fact that Spain and Italy are kind of waiting in the wings. They have a lot of debt. They haven't, they're waiting to see what they're going to do with Greece.
Exactly.
And
then,
also,
go ahead.
Greece too, Greece is more than a financial, Greece is a political decision. There's politics that I wouldn't even want to get involved with that are involved in this. So you have to keep that in mind as well. It's not just a purely mathematical, you owe us money.
And of course. Even within the union, within the community, though, you're talking about equality.
Right.
You're talking about fair treat, right? We're talking about fair treat. Take Italy, for example. Take Spain, for example. They're watching, right? If they get the Greek debts excused, though.
Right.
So how about us?
Well, that would be human nature.
Yeah.
Would say,
how about Italy? Why not Italy? Excuse our debt, right? And then Spain says, well, let's do the same thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you have a whole bunch of central banks in Europe and in the United States, Latin America, wherever, that will say, well, why should we loan you money? Why should we?
Why should we do anything?
Like the IMF, the International Monetary Fund.
Yeah, sure.
Why should we extend credit?
Yeah, let's wash our hands, get out.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then also, it looks at if right now what the great government is playing that, it looks to me that they don't care. They don't care. I'm a dead horse already. Okay, all right, beat me, whatever.
I kind of got the feeling you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
The Prime Minister.
See,
the idea that they would look at human beings are not going to vote against themselves. If you put out there that says, hey, which would you like to do? You want to live retract your lifestyle, not have as many government services, or you want to just keep things as they are, which do you vote for?
Yeah, they vote against themselves.
Right.
They vote, looks to me, excuse me for saying that, my dear Greek friend, I have lots of Greek friends though, excuse me for saying that though, they vote, it sounds to me that if they voted to strangle themselves.
They voted for the status quo. They voted and what, austerity is not fun. It's not, you're living a certain lifestyle and suddenly you have to pull in the reins and you're not going out to dinner 3 days a week and you're not doing this. But maybe that's what they need to do in order to save the economics, the value of the country.
That's exactly, Steve,
get done.
I believe, that's exactly your cup of tea.
Right.
Right? And that's exactly I mean, remember last time when you were here,
Right.
we were talking about quite a bit of conservation,
Right.
quite a bit about you don't spend money like squander away
That's right.
when time is good, and then all of a sudden you face a dead wall,
Right.
right? You face a dead end, you find nowhere, and then to make it even worse, though, you go to strangle yourself. Let's commit suicide altogether the one time. No, that doesn't sound all right. So my dear audience, today we are, as a matter of fact, not only talk about what's happening in Greece, we're taking Greece as an example to look at us, to reflect others, including ourselves. In other words, do we have to be serious with our lifestyles, with the lifestyles? In other words, in Greece, those poor Greeks, should they have a more kind of a tightened or tighter lifestyle though? Well, things wouldn't be that bad, right? Today, joining me in the discussion to shed light to with my audience is my good friend, an expert, huge expert in the financial world, executive, Mr. Stephen Hundley, and we're touching base with what was happening in Greece. So let's take a very short moment out. When we come back, we'll find out what went wrong in the first place.
Okay.
All right, shall we?
All right.
Okay, good. Probably we're going to make somebody very unhappy. Okay. So we'll be right back.